Hey everybody, it is Jazzy of Video Store Sasquatch here, and we are doing our Throwback Thursday. I have a movie saw over the week. It is on Paramount Plus, and then we have our Better Call Saul 4 episode recap from last week, and then the box office report. I did not go see a movie this weekend because of the Super Bowl. I will be seeing a movie this weekend though. I do not know which one yet because I haven't looked, but we will figure that out. So there will be a new movie review. Um, let's start here with the Better Call Saul. So we left off on season one, episode 8. We had 2 episodes left in the season, and then we're gonna go talk about the first 2 episodes of the second season. To start here is season one, episode 9, Pimento. It debuted March 30th of 2015, and we start with Jimmy and Chuck sitting on a bench near a power pole deal. He's outside. Chuck is outside now. He is getting more comfortable and stuff like this, being just outside and around people. We even see him kind of in the office this episode as well. We'll talk about later. So we're seeing that the kind of turnaround and the fact that he's focusing on his job, focusing on working, is actually kind of doing better for his mental health or his health or whatever is going on in his head, or with the electromagnetic stuff. Mike gets a dog and hands it to his daughter-in-law. She takes it. He kind of was gonna play like, if you don't want to take it, you can keep it, and my granddaughter can visit. So he's obviously pursuing his he not pursuing, but he's continuing his relationship with his daughter-in-law, like I said, and trying to work his way into like being more part of their lives and his granddaughter's lives and stuff like that. Jimmy goes back to Chuck and suggest. Oh wait, hold. Jimmy and Sandpiper are arguing against Jimmy being restrained from the property. So right now they're in a legal process here with Sandpiper. Remember, it's just the very start of this, and he has to argue in court of why he should be able to do this. And they put a restraining order on him. He goes back to Chuck, argues them, and then they go to. Then Chuck pretty much from there suggests to go to HHM with the case because of the caseload and how much work it is and stuff like that. They kind of fall asleep, and then Chuck sneaks out, uses Jimmy's phone in the middle of the night, and this is actually a very important part of the next kind of going into this, the last of this, and going into the next the season finale and the start of the season. So this is actually a pretty huge moment here because he's calling someone. We don't know who it is, but we gotta later find out who it was. Mike meets a guy in the parking lot. We're gonna call him the pharmacist. I didn't catch his name, and I'm sure that they said his name a bunch of times, and I think his name is even like a complicated name. He catches this pharmacist, who's pretty much hired him to like kind of be a muscle. He hires 3 guys, and Trevor from GTA 6 is actually one of the guys, and it's kind of entertaining scene where Mike kind of shows him how important Mike is and like disarms Trevor, and then the other guy kind of just walks away. So he takes all 3 of their payments to do whatever he's gonna do, just kind of muscle up the pharmacist. So that goes into this, and then we meet who the pharmacist is meeting. Um Later on into the episode. Chuck, so after that scene, Chuck, let's see, yeah, leaves the house. Think about the stroke that this guy has in his company, where literally they go around and pass a plastic bucket, and then you put any electronic device you have, your key fob, whatever, in this plastic bucket, no matter what, like, doesn't matter who you are, employee wise, even the boss did it. That's kind of stroke right there that Chuck has at this company. So that's kind of important to see and then kind of realize everything that's going to go on into the rest of this. So that is a cool little scene to see there, and then see how everyone prepares for him to get into the office. So Jackie, they shut down the whole office for him, blah blah blah, and he used the space blanket too as Jimmy's idea. It's funny how much Jimmy will work with him and how much he kind of resents him, and how we figure out how much he kind of resents him at the end of this. Um, Basically, Howard doesn't want Jimmy. We figure to be a part of this, and it's kind of like a kick in the balls to Jimmy here. This is also part of the drama that we're gonna later find out. So we skip that. So we get done with that part. we kind of see the final part of Mike and this pharmacist deal. He's dealing with Nacho, so we know who Nacho is. We know he's smart. We know he's a gangster. We know he's tough, and we know that he's definitely connected with Tuco and all this. So the pharmacist is selling him whatever, and they're doing this and mixing it up, and this will lead into more too into the season finale. Basically, Kim meets with Howard after all that happened in the next scene, and that is where we kind of figure out that Howard isn't the one behind Jimmy here, which is huge. Kimmy meets with Jimmy at the nail salon. She tells him the deal. Basically, not the deal, but the deal like presented to her with I think another job. Jimmy kind of realizes what's going on too. He looks at his phone, it's dead. He always makes sure to turn off his phone. You know what I mean? Like when you're a creature of habit and stuff like this, it's easy to kind of catch stuff like that. And especially with a guy like Jimmy who is kind of already kind of waiting to be scammed and stuff like this and is a scammer himself. So when they so he's kind of also a little bit extra ultra aware of what he does and when he does it and how he does it. So he knows that that phone's been tampered with. He goes confronts Chuck, and Chuck basically lays it down. And he doesn't think that Jimmy's a real lawyer. Slippy Jimmy is going to come back at any point in time, ruin his law firm too that he built. So some of it you kind of see, some of it's just kind of like overblown. And I think even later in like when Howard and him kind of deal with what happened, you see that even Howard thought that Jimmy was really that. He called him Charlie Hustle. Like he really did believe in Jimmy. Like it wasn't like Howard wasn't the contributor of all the negativity. It was really Chuck kind of using Howard, and that kind of put Howard in a bad spot there. So that is an interesting little relationship dynamic too with that. This episode is just crazy packed full of stuff, and you're kind of expecting explosive season finale here. And honestly, before we even get into it, I was going to say this is kind of a weak season finale, but it is kind of important for the story because we have to kind of pass on this part of the story and move it on to the next season. So this is the season finale, episode 10, season 1. Marco, April 6th, 2015 is the release date. Back to early slipping Jimmy. We get an early part of that, and we see him say goodbye to his buddy that we had seen in previous episodes in Cicero, Illinois. So it is kind of interesting to see that. Even his buddy at that point in time tells him that your brother don't like you, bro. Like, so his buddy kind of could read the room. I think that a lot more people could read the room. I just don't think that Jimmy wanted to believe it himself. You know what I mean? So I think that is kind of part of like all that too. And Jimmy did take care of his brother, so it's kind of fucked up that his brother kind of did him like that. Just kind of be like this. You know what I mean? Howard and Jimmy have a meeting of him. Landing over the case, and Jimmy gives him a shopping list of what Chuck needs daily, and basically he's like, he's kind of your problem now. I'm moving on from this. I think that at that moment in time too, when Howard was looking at the list, we really saw how impressed Howard was that Jimmy was kind of keeping all this together, as well as doing all this for Chuck. So it leads into that too. So I think that we're going to kind of see a little bit easier relationship between Chuck and Jimmy moving forward, just through a couple of those scenes there. Jimmy calls bingo. So he's at the bingo scene again. It's like the most depressing bingo game ever. I mean, he pretty much has a complete meltdown and leaves. He goes back. He takes his $20,000 because he did get $20,000 for handing the case over, plus any winnings that they get. So basically, for pretty much a free case here, of just a bunch of money that's going to come through. For him, he takes $20,000. He goes immediately back to Cicero. He finds his buddy at the bar. They kind of go and reminisce, and they want to run one more scam. And his buddy, I think the whole gist of it is his buddy passed away finally at the end there, which was sad. Yeah, no, it did, because he went to a funeral and everything. So his buddy passed away at the end of the scam. And this is where we see the turning point in Jimmy. So this is why I said it was kind of a weak season finale, but at the same time, it was important to the overall story because we see that this is where Jimmy turns it. He's like, I'm never going to hold back again. Even at the end of the episode, he asked Mike, he goes, am I like crazy, or did we have $1.6 million right in front of us? We could have took it. No one would have known but those people, and fuck those people, who cares? And his buddy and Mike kind of responds with, he's like, yeah, well, I just kind of hired to do a job. That's why I didn't take it. And Jimmy kind of looked at him and says, I know I did it, and I'm never holding back did. So that is another thing, is I think that a lot of what he was holding back was for his brother as well. So this is going to be an interesting kind of season coming up, because he is fresh off wound and he's on a hell path for whatever he wants to do. So we start off with Switch. Um, this came out February 15th, 2016. This is episode 1 of season 2 here. Back to black and white Cinnabon. So we're back to the future, back to the present time, whatever you want to say, because it's past now, but back into the time after Breaking Bad. And he's at his Cinnabon, gets locked into the dumpster, and we kind of see that he kind of has all this patience. He just kind of says, screw it, sits there and waits for someone. So who knows how long he waited? I don't even think it really showed you how long he waited. Maybe like an hour or two. For another person to come and unlock him. So we kind of see that he's not only, from what we've seen at the end of that episode, that he's beating the man. Like, this dude's done. Like, he just is kind of giving up, just kind of moving on, just going through his daily life. I kind of want to see where all this kind of intersects too, but we'll just go back to this. Trapped in the mall, garbage area, but Jimmy asks Kim if he's going to happen between them. So he comes back to Cicero. This is right at the end of the first season, but we didn't see this part. We just saw him leaving and talking to Mike, because we see that the transference of it all. Through it, he declines a job offer after Kim kind of says that this has nothing to do with that, blah, blah, blah. Mike meets with his hookup to Nacho, and he walks. Oh, yeah. So Mike hooks up with this pharmacist. This pharmacist shows up in this fucking Hummer, big-ass Hummer, yellow, with flames all around it, with new yellow flaming shoes. This nerdy guy all of a sudden has all this money, and Mike just walks away. He's like, we can take my car. And the guy's like, nah. He's like, there's no way I'm going into that. So this starts a whole thing there. So Mike walks away. Nacho knows Mike ain't with him during the meeting too. And he starts getting like interested. He gets the card off the car to find out where this guy lives. He robs this guy. But in the meantime, Jimmy laying in the pool. So Jimmy's laying in the pool. He's just in the middle of like this resort, laying in the pool, just chilling, drinking. Kim visits him, asks him like what the hell's going on, and then they go proceed to like kind of scam this guy for like a free night of drinks, like nothing like too like nefarious and stuff like this, but it's just kind of like a con, just to like kind of get Jimmy like to get going again. You know what I mean? And she likes it at the end of the night. So that is where we go there. And then cops visit the pharmacist. Yeah. And then the pharmacist calls the cops after Nacho robs him and reports a bunch of stolen baseball cards. Like, this guy's an idiot. They find this little spot and want to know what he's hiding. So they end up wanting him back. Cops start to interrogate him because they know, back to Jimmy at the resort. And he ended up taking the job offer that he originally had turned down for Davis and Maine. So that's kind of where we end there. It was an interesting season 1. Like I said, we really kind of, I think in between all that, at some point in time, no, that's the next episode. So we don't even know what really happened with Chuck yet. But we know that Jimmy is kind of like, I don't give a fuck. And I don't blame him. He kind of went through a lot there at the end. And he kind of like snapped into it after kind of like, just kind of leaving off some steam. All that, and then now like we're kind of interested in what happened to Chuck. I really like in between seasons with these shows. It's like one of my favorite things to do is do this part, because honestly, every time I watch a show, I'm always like interested to see the characters, because you know what I mean. They're like a year older in real life, but really they're either playing in the timeline of when they were gone, or whenever this happened, or blah blah blah. So like they look older. There's usually a new look. It's like, okay, let's see who they're really trying to focus on. Even the females usually have like a better hair makeup lady or a better hairless. So it's just interesting to see the teeth get better. They usually get those veneers. So it is. This is one of like my favorite things to do throughout all the seasons. And if you've never thought about it, go through and watch that. Like next time you're looking through a season, because it is just like, it's like a little subtle details of like, oh, that was that character. Then like how they grow on you. So this is my favorite part of that. So we are here, episode 2, season 2, Cobbler, February 22nd of 2016. We open to Chuck playing the piano, and Howard visits with Chuck, telling him Jimmy is working for Davis and Maine. And Howard's like, "Look, bro, I didn't have nothing to do with it. Like, it really." Tell Chuck's upset, but he's trying not to lead on to that because he realizes that there is kind of like a working relationship that they need to have because Davis and Maine is taking on the case with him on that part, and that is also why Jimmy kind of got the job, and also Howard and both Kim kind of fought for him to have the job. So that is kind of interesting there to see that. We had a sandpiper meeting between the two companies. Chuck is not there at this time, but Chuck does know. Oh wait, Jimmy and him in their parking spot. Yeah, so Jimmy and Kim meet him in their parking spot again, and this is after everything's kind of happened. They're kind of sharing, and even she's kind of starting to talk about the future with Jimmy of like what they're gonna do when they get a house. Like they're gonna live in between Albuquerque and Albuquerque and Santa Fe and all that. So they kind of explaining that. Mike agrees to find the pharmacist cards because the pharmacist shows up. You know how Mike works at the city hall building. He's like the parking lot attendant. This pharmacist shows up, and Mike's like, "What are you doing here?" And he tells Mike the story. And Mike's like, "Don't you go in there." So he agrees to find the card. Jimmy goes into the office. He finally goes into the office. He's meeting in it. And he's looking around. And he goes and he finds his boss, and he talks with his boss. He lets his boss know he's happy to be there. The boss lets him know he's happy to be there. But you can also kind of tell at the same time, looking at his face, and this is where like kind of Bob Odenkirk's a good actor, is he kind of looks like, well, he's kind of like thinking with his eyes like the character, because you can tell with the eyes behind the character that this guy just doesn't, he wants to know, and then when the next hand's coming, like, okay, this is good now. When's the bad coming? So it is kind of interesting there. Chuck lying in bed, popping into his house. Yeah, Chuck. So Chuck lying in bed, he pops into his house. I don't get that. And his assistant popping in his. Forget that part. The pharmacist hands over the Hummer for his cards. HHM meeting at a Sandpiper. I think that I mixed those parts up. HHM meeting on the Sandpiper here. Again, the kind of stroke that he has, they not only are willing to do it for their employees, but even when he shows up out of the middle of nowhere, he makes everyone in the meeting, even the Davis and Maine people, put their electronics away, key fobs, all this, into a plastic thing to help for them. They turn off the lights and all this, blah blah blah. So he has the meeting there. Chuck shows up, and Chuck's kind of doing this to Big Dog, Jimmy a little bit, because this is the first time they're even interacting with each other since the end of the season, and all the like the badness happens. Probably like 3 weeks, and shows progress. So yeah, that is interesting there. Um, Mike calls Jimmy for a job. Mike hires Jimmy to help the pharmacist. Jimmy has to make up this funny ass story about what the pharmacist is, makes him look like a complete pervert, and then has to make him make a video for it to prove like why he had the hiding spot. So Mike kind of helps this guy get out of that deal there. And then he tells Kim, and Kim is upset, and Kim says, "I cannot have this happen again." So it's kind of going to be interesting to watch him work from James McGill to Saul Goodman, because now we know it's coming soon, because um I mean, we just know that it's coming. So we know it's coming sooner or later, that eventually something's gonna happen and the other hand's gonna fall here, and he's gonna go full slipping Jimmy or Saul Goodman. And is she gonna stick around for that? And what is their relationship after that kind of happens? So that'll be interesting to go. Got a long season to go, I'm sure. 8 episodes. We'll get back at it next week. 4 more episodes for you. That was a lot to talk about. Now, let's start our movie review here. Untitled Human Invasion. Human. Untitled Home Invasion Romance. This is directed by Jason Biggs. As the last-ditch attempt at saving his failing marriage, an actor stages an at-home invasion during a romantic getaway weekend. Jason Biggs is also the star of that. Megan Rath and Justin H. Min are also in this. I want to make sure that they didn't like give me like a weird, yeah. So Susie, yeah, okay. Um, this movie, it kind of reminds me of like those old school like '90s, early 2000s comedies. It's kind of like funny. It's a little dark and it's very character driven. I thought that it was perfectly amount of time. It was like an hour and 23 minutes. So you can't even beat that. And on top of that, it's funny. It gets to the point. It has growth and development. And it has a good story into it. Definitely recommend it. It's on Paramount Plus. And Jason Biggs did a very good job directing here. There's not like a lost vision or anything like that. I feel like he's like, I got a job, I'm gonna do it. And I think that then like in the late '90s, early 2000s is like his like hit period with comedies and kind of his timing and stuff like that. So I think that's why it kind of reminds me of that as well. If you haven't seen it, it is worth the watch. Here it is on Paramount Plus. I would really talk about it more, but I think I talked enough with that Breaking Bad stuff that I probably should have done this first. Yeah, I definitely would recommend it. Is Untitled Home Invasion Movie. Home Invasion Romance. The Untitled Home Invasion Romance. That is a title right there. And it is directed by Jason Biggs. And then I'm gonna kind of get out of here with that because I don't have much talking here. But we have our weekend box office report to do. I did not see a movie this weekend, so I don't even know. I don't even remember what came out. I don't think that there was much good that came out. So if I were stuck by a rule, I shouldn't even do this. But Send Help had 9 million with a total of 37. I think people were like, I'm gonna go to the Super Bowl. Is that Solo Milo? Maybe Solo Mio might be the new movie. I don't know. It only made 7 million, and Iron Lung still holding on strong with 6 million. Total 31 million. Send Help and Iron Lung came out at the same time, about $6 million off. And Iron Lung, it cost like $2 million to make, so that's pretty impressive for Iron Lung. Good job with Mark Clear or whatever. Good job, just there, just all his own money, all independent. Cool to see. Need more movies like that. I guess. I think that like that's like. I mean, that was his true artistic vision, no matter what you want to say, because he put his money behind it and then did it himself. So, congratulations, man. That will be our week this week. Let's see. Oh yeah, please follow on the Facebook page. We got like 5 more to go. We can do live. I keep saying it. And then on one next week, I want to say 4, and then we go 3, 2, 1, and we'll do something fun. Like we'll just do a bunch of live stuff randomly, fun stuff. Just show a little bit more of a sense of humor, a little bit more stoner jokes and stuff like that, as well as you can join, like, subscribe on our YouTube page as well. Thank you guys very much for watching, and please have a good rest of your day or night. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Comment your top movie picks for Throwback Thursday in the comment section, and see you next time in the cave.